Hello everyone and welcome to my raid guide prep for Hisuian Samurott. Alright, let's get to it. So, let's address this guy. A couple of things. One of the things is that it is one of the best VGC and Pokemon Showdown Pokemon. It's very good for setting up, and we're going to talk about the different moves it can have, and also the different things that you need to be aware of, such as its ability and potential counters for this raid. So let's get straight to it. The ability of Hisuian Samurott is Sharpness, which means that if it uses anything that is a slicing move, it will increase the damage by 50%. That's pretty insane. Another thing that we can address is the moves. The two potential moves I can use are Ceaseless Edge, which is going to be something that's going to set up spikes. So let's say your Pokemon gets knocked out. Hopefully that's not the case. If you throw it back in, it is likely to take damage from that arena effect that it's going to have from Ceaseless Edge. The next move we're going to talk about is Razor Shell. Razor Shell is a move that was introduced in Black and White, where it was known as the signature move of its less edgy counterpart, Hisuian Samurott. This move is actually well known for decreasing the defense stat. So that means the more you get hit by it, the less defenses you have. Another thing about Hisuian Samurott that we can address are the levels of coverage moves, as well as some of the setup it can have. So say we can have something like Focus Energy or Swords Dance to boost its damage. In previous patches of Scarlet Violet, both Ceaseless Edge and Razor Shell actually had in their text that they had a higher critical hit boost than other moves, such as Night Slash, for example. But in this case, when we're talking about these moves, they no longer have it in the current patches. So that's something to be less worried about. But that's besides the point. Some other moves that Hisuian Samurott could have are Rain Dance, Screech, and Scary Face, all which are either status or moves that set up for more damage. For when it comes to coverage moves, we can have things like Icy Wind, which is going to slow down your Pokemon and your partners. We can also have things for coverage such as Drill Run, which is also another high critical hit move, which poses another reason why you can run Focus Energy. Bulldoze, same thing as Icy Wind, physical version, slows down the speed. We can also have Aerial Ace, a move that is well known by a lot of people, by Ash Ketchum using it on Swellow, or many of its other bird Pokemon. But in this case, with Hisuian Samurott, this is a move that actually gets a boost from Sharpness. Isn't that pretty crazy? The other two moves that I could have are Mega Horn for coverage against grass types to do a lot of damage, but lucky for us, it has a good rate of missing. And finally, a move called Sacred Sword. This move is pretty crazy because it ignores any status change, and it will just hit you. So if you set up Iron Defense, if you set up any other form of defense increasing ability, then this move will go through it. Okay, that's enough about Hisuian Samurott. Let's get to the potential counters. The first one I want to discuss is probably my favorite, and the most risky, based off of a couple moves that we already discussed. Lurantis. Hear me out. This Pokemon has access to the ability Contrary, right? You might be asking yourself, what's so great about Contrary? Sounds pretty controversial.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I'm gonna tell you. So, Contrary works like this. You take your Close Combat, you take your Leaf Storm, you take your Draco Meteor. All these moves that have high damage, but end up lowering your either physical defense, physical attack, special attack, whatever. You get a detriment, instead it becomes a benefit. It'll boost it instead. So it's like as if you have Leaf Storm, on top of it you have Nasty Plot, which is pretty insane. So when it comes to Lurantis, since it could have a different Terra type on top of fighting this Pokemon, fighting against Razor Shell, which will always be boosting its defense, on top of it using Leaf Storm, it is a prominent threat. Although it is very weak to moves like Icy Wind, Mega Horn, and especially Aerial Ace with a 4 times effective damage to it. So you can try it, but it is a very risky build. Another Pokemon that I'd like to talk about, it's a fan favorite, Peekaboo, baby. Let's go. Look at this dude. Look at Azumarill. Look at him. Peekaboo is a very good Pokemon, and originally Marrow was actually called Peekaboo before it was coming out in the Johto games. And this Pokemon has the access to the ability Huge Power. Huge Power is such a great ability in which it increases the physical attack stat of a Pokemon. Put on top of this Belly Drum, put on top of this Aqua Ring, put on top of this Liquidation, which will also decrease the defense stat of the Pokemon it hits. It's incredible. Not to mention you can give the item a Shell Bell, which will heal you for the damage you do on top of the healing you'll get from Aqua Ring. The next Pokemon that we're going to talk about, and one that probably everyone will use, is none other than Iron Hands. Now this is another popular VGC Pokemon Showdown Pokemon that is very powerful and strong. This is another Belly Drum Pokemon for raids, so people can set it up with items such as Booster Energy, which will effectively act like a Beast Boost. If you guys are familiar with the Alolan region, it'll increase the stat that has the most stat benefit in it. So for Iron Hands, if you boost its physical attack stat when you train it, then it's going to boost the physical attack stat by 1 stage. Again, this is going to be one of our Belly Drum boys, so it's going to have Belly Drum, it's going to have Drain Punch. You could give it Force Palm if you want to try to run an early Paralysis on it, and if you want to try to run any other move such as Wild Charge, which runs a risk of damaging yourself, but that's where you can replace Booster Energy with a Shell Bell again to gain that health back. Or you could even run another move like Thunder Punch to hope for a Paralysis as well, or just extra damage. Either way, Iron Hands has always been a great staple when it comes to fighting raids. Another Pokemon you can use is a stall Pokemon. Did you know that breeding between humans... Yeah, let's not get it. FBI, open up! Vaporeon. Vaporeon is a Pokemon with access to the ability Water Absorb. What does that mean? Water Absorb means that it can absorb water, which means that it's immune to water moves. On top of that, it will heal with that water move attacking. So you're taking no damage on top of being able to just heal yourself with moves like Aqua Ring, top of building stats like Calm Mind, Acid Arm. Things of that nature can really help. The reason why it's so stally is because you have to build up these stats. Now you might be asking yourself, what item should I put on this Pokemon? The answer is not the one you probably think it is. We don't want those danky old leftovers. No, we are looking for something specific, and that, my friends, is Metronome. The item of Metronome is gonna be so critical in this build because we are gonna be using the move Stored Power. What Stored Power does, it's going to increase the output of damage for every stat boost you have. So realistically, if you want to do a build that is less risky, Vaporeon is probably the best one for that, with its Acid Armor, Calm Mind, Aqua Ring, Stored Power build, and it's going to prove to be one of the craziest damage outputs out there. The fifth Pokemon we're going to be talking about is an interesting contender. I'll let you take a guess. It's from Hoenn. It is a water type. None of these have narrowed it down. It is none other than our Crawdad Crawdaunt. Now this Pokemon can again be another risk with Hisuian Samurott. Why? Because it is a water dark type. So if this Pokemon were to go against Hisuian Samurott and Hisuian Samurott were to run the move Sacred Sword, that's where we're going to be in a bit of trouble. But anyway, back to the reasons why Crawdaunt is probably one of the scariest Pokemon to run in this. So Crawdaunt has an ability called Adaptability. It's basically taking your same type attack boost bonus. So if you use a water move, it'll boost the water move's damage, and changing it to super effective levels of damage. So Crawdaunt with Liquidation and or Razor Shell will constantly be lowering the defense, right? That's pretty crazy considering that you're going to be doing that damage. Yes, it's not going to be as effective, but at least you're going to be setting up that defense drop. On top of that, you could be giving it Metronome, you could be giving it another item like Shell Bell again, but also you could be setting up with this Pokemon to do even more damage, like running 3 Swords Dances on this thing, or getting your damage off first, which is probably the safer answer, and getting into a Terra type that is resistant, such as just plain old water, doing that damage to Hisuian Samurott. So if we're doing the calculation correct, the same type attack boost bonus is going to be, for Crawdaunt, 2 times the damage because of the ability Adaptability. On top of that, we're doubling the damage with the Water Terra type, Liquidation or Razor Shell. That is already going to be roughly maybe 4 times. Then we have to cut it in half because Samurott is going to be resistant to the water type moves, right? On top of that, we're going to add the Metronome. Overall, we are going to get a more positive outlook on what the damage output is going to be. If we're going to use that Metronome, if we're not, then we're basically back at the start. But I digress. And we move to another move that I can use called Lash Out. This move, when the user uses this after its stats are lowered, it's going to double the damage. So picture this. You have Swords Dance up. You just had your stats lowered because you're going to build this to be more tanky. You are going to be doing an immense amount of damage on top of healing with Shell Bell, on top of having the same type attack bonus with Adaptability. Let's move on to the next Pokemon. One that I want to really stress is one that's going to be resisting many of the moves besides one. This Pokemon has been known throughout many as not the best of evolutions, just based off of aesthetics, just because it doesn't change all that much. We are talking about Poliwrath. Poliwrath is a Pokemon that is going to be representing, again, the Belly Drum Gang. It's going to have access to moves like Drain Punch, so you're going to be healing the damage you take. But here's the kicker. It's also going to be like Vaporeon, because it has access to Water Absorb. So when it comes to Poliwrath, with it having Belly Drum, with it having Water Absorbed, it is going to be doing a lot of damage, on top of it having access to a move that'll heal it, such as Drain Punch. And you could even put one of the two items previously mentioned, the Shell Bell, or again, the Metronome. The Shell Bell will definitely increase the health you're going to get back, whereas the Metronome will keep doing more damage over time as you use the same move over and over again. Other moves that are viable for Poliwrath are things like Mud Slap, so you can use this early on to decrease the accuracy, or even Body Slam for getting a paralysis status on Hisuian Samurott. Again, this is probably one of the best contenders to use against Hisuian Samurott, just because the fact that it resists the majority of the moves, aside from Aerial Ace. And on top of that, if Hisuian Samurott were to set up Rain Dance, you could use the move Liquidation to build up a defense drop on this Pokemon. It all depends on how you want to do it. And of course, you can choose any other electric, water type, even a grass type, it doesn't matter. But you can use things like Belly Bolt, you can use Electros, you can use Miraidon, our Paldean version of Zapdos, Kilowattrel, you can use Quagsire, another Water Absorb Pokemon. You can use our less edgy friend, Samurott. You can use Pikachu with a Light Ball if you want. Hit it with that really cool Volt Tackle. You have Ludicolo, funny dude. This is our little teeter dance Pokemon if you want to really screw with raids. You could even use Gyarados. Who doesn't want to use a giant dragon, not dragon Pokemon that resists all the moves that it has and just deal a lot of damage? You can also use Cramorant. These two are the same type, by the way. Think about that for a second. Like I said, the choice is yours. After all, this is Pokemon. Overall, using these lugs of bulky water types, shocking electric types, or even using the risky Lurantis, to me sounds like a pretty good spread of options. This is GorillaZilla signing off. Peace.